Hey guys, welcome back. So with us continuing our talks on all new Venom, we jump back into the mystery of trying to find out who's inside the symbiote. And in this one, we get to cross at least one name off of our list of suspects. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so coming back, we pick up with all new Venom in New York at Times Square. And as we do, on the screens above, we're showing your 4 leading suspects as far as who might be the all new Venom, with those people being Robbie Robertson, Rick Jones, Madam Mask, and Mayor Luke Cage. But as this continues, we'll be able to eliminate at least one of them off of this list. But as we find all new Venom here, we see someone off panel say to them, there are 4 possibilities here, which is coming from Ringleader, who's the leader of a supervillain team called the Death Throes. And I use the term supervillains loosely here, because on a totem pole of supervillain teams, you would need a shovel to find where these guys rank. But nonetheless, they just finished robbing a bank here, because Ringleader's holding an audition with new recruits to find a replacement for Oddball. So out of the 4 possibilities that Ringleader is talking about here, he tells all new Venom that this team could attack them, or all new Venom could defeat this team. Third option, all new Venom could just walk away, or the fourth is Venom could join them. But as expected, these auditionees go for the attack, and one of the first people we see step up is this new character named Heave Ho. And I'm gonna tell you right now, she's committed to this whole pirate thing. She's got the pirate talk, she's got the bombs, she's got the booty stashed up, she's on point. And the other auditionees follow up shortly after, with each of them throwing some type of projectile. And come to think of it, Heave Ho might be getting them bombs from Bombshell. It's just my guess. But this only leads to all new Venom saying, if this is who's auditioning, maybe the Death Throes do need a star of our caliber, because we don't just throw webs, we throw hands. And I gotta admit, when all new Venom says this, the first thing that came to mind for me was, now what type of suspect would talk like that? And I understand, at best, that logic only splits things down the middle, but as this continues, we're gonna do some narrowing down as far as who the all new Venom is, because it won't be too long before we find out who the all new Venom isn't. So following this, Ringleader tells the others it's a wash and they should just escape. So as they do, Bombshell tosses out like 5 bombs, and she tells Venom all of them are duds except for one. And what happens here tells us a little bit more about this mysterious all new Venom host, because at first they're like, we'll rip you apart, only for Venom to stop them and say no, find the bomb first. Gunpowder, she said. Know anything about that? And by we, I mean you in there. Tell me you picked up some science hanging out with, and of course it stopped before we get a name. And they go on to say, okay, gunpowder is mostly saltpeter, potassium nitrate, which is still used for occasionally curing meat, and has a very particular taste. So they end up extending their tongue to taste their way towards finding where the real bomb is located. And as soon as they get it, they put it in their mouth in order to contain the explosion. And now as soon as this happens, Venom's met by 3 guardsmen with modified armor who go by the names of Heater, Ripcord, and Slice. In this group, who refers to themselves as Scar Squad 1, they make sure to use short-range weaponry for the sake of the nearby civilians. But they also go on to let Venom know that they're agents of the federal government, tasked with symbiote containment and relocation. And among these 3, Ripcord, who's the leader of Scar Squad 1, she goes on to say how many of them have lost friends and family during Venom War, back when the zombiotes were running around and going crazy. And we end up finding out here that her name is Jillian Carson, and she's the sister of Jack Carson, who was also known as Spearhead, where in his case we were introduced to him early in the previous Venom series when things first started building up with Meridius and the Life Foundation. But I want to say he was eventually killed by symbiotecs in Cult of Carnage Misery. But nonetheless, dude is definitely dead, and that's why Jill, his sister, has a chip on her shoulder. But at first, all new Venom thinks that Jack is one of the other guardsmen who are here, and it has Venom like, so you're Jack and Jill, and you picked this hill to die on. And that's when Ripcord tells him that Jack's dead and he was killed by a symbiote, because even now some idiots think humans can work with brain-eating aliens. And she goes on to say, tell me, under there, do you honestly think you're the hero? Even if that thing doesn't destroy your life right away. Do you really think you can replace Eddie Brock? Do you think you're anything more to this space Dracula than its next meal? So hearing this just causes Venom to stop for a moment and say, you're right. It's not like with Eddie. It can't be. We're not family. We're not even friends, but we're stuck together. And you know, it's things like this that start to make me think like, maybe it's not any of the 4 suspects that we've been led to believe that it might be. Cause I'd imagine if anyone would be stuck with the Venom symbiote, it would probably be the Cletus Cassidy who walked away from the Carnage symbiote. Because at the end of Venom War, when the Venom symbiote was dying because of its exposure to anti-Carnage, and the whole thing with anti-Carnage meeting Carnage, and it reacting like antimatter meeting matter, setting things up where the Venom symbiote would need a Cletus Cassidy, who was made by Carnage, who evolved to a point where he no longer needs the Carnage symbiote, to turn out to be the answer or the host who could stabilize Venom after everything that's happened. And maybe bonding with the symbiote has brought the new Cletus Cassidy back to symbiote dependency? But at this point, who knows? I'm just sharing my thought process up to this point. But while all new Venoms here sorting out their thoughts, Ripcord tries to catch them off guard with a cheap shot, only for them to catch her whip and tell her nice strategy. Get us talking, then catch us napping, right? Well, it's nap time, alright. Here's your lullaby. As they pull the whip, swing Ripcord around and smack the other guardsmen just before getting away. And as Venom leaves, they're like, sorry folks, we're late for a meeting. Which from here takes us right to a meeting between Robbie Robertson, Rick Jones, and Mayor Luke Cage. Which is a great segue that takes us from all new Venom to your top 3 suspects, well 3 out of 4 at least. But going into this meeting, first off, Robbie's late, and as it turns out, Luke and Rick just got here not too long before, and none of them have an alibi for where they were for the last 30 minutes. So right away, Rick, with his awesome t-shirt, holds up his phone and he's like, we're all thinking it, right? Venom was just now in Times Square, and once again, none of the 3 of us can verify our whereabouts. So Robbie quickly shuts the door and he more or less tells Rick, we don't need to announce to a room full of reporters that we think one of us might be the new Venom. So Luke points out maybe one of us, because once again there's still the lingering suspicion of it being Madame Mask, and Luke tells them if she's Venom, we're going to regret wasting time on each other. And this just leads to Rick expressing his suspicions, because he tells Luke that's why he sent out the SCAR team, only for Luke to tell him SCAR are federal. But sure, when the paperwork came to his desk, Luke didn't give the feds much pushback, and he goes on to tell him the agency's goal is to return symbiotes to natural habitats in space, not kill them or turn them into weapons. So Rick takes it a step further and he's like, okay, yeah, it would look suspicious if you gave him any pushback. And it just has Luke like, yeah, that'd be a concern if I was Venom, but I am not Venom. And I gotta think about everybody in this city who also is not Venom. And this leads to Luke pointing the finger at Rick and telling him, although right now, I'm thinking it's you. You are way too breezy about this. And in Rick's case, he's just like, yeah, cause I know it's not me. And that just has Luke like, it better not be. And that goes for your old ass too, Robbie. No, I'm playing, he ain't say it like that. But in Luke's case, his focus here is to clean his name off of this. But he's also here because if good people are making a big mistake, then he's ready to step in and save them from themselves in a not so gentle way. So with Luke using the choice words of good people, this has Robbie like, okay, so you think it isn't Whitney Frost, aka Madame Mask. And if that's the case, then step 1 needs to be proving it, which really just comes around to them either proving that she is or proving that she isn't, because either one will work, but the first thing they need to do is track her down. So this has Luke like, you're a little old for this vigilante lifestyle, Robbie. And Robbie's like, thank you for that vote of confidence, Luke. I agree. I am not Venom, but I was once a reporter, before the editor's desk sang its sweet siren song. So Robbie goes on to point out that Luke was once a private eye, and Rick has got plenty of experience from being around superheroes and watching them work. So if they pooled their resources, it's quite possible that they could find Madame Mask. And if that's what they're doing, they're gonna have to hurry, because they're not the only ones on the hunt. Which from here takes us over to later that evening at MJ and Paul's place, where Paul's trying to tell Dylan not to use his phone at the table, only for Dylan to tell him, cram it, weirdo. So MJ tries to de-escalate this by telling Paul that she needs him in the kitchen, and Dylan's just like, yeah, Paul, go make some more vegan crap that sucks. And over in the kitchen, MJ tries to tell Paul to more or less give Dylan a break since he was bonded to a violent alien for months, he was homeless, and he stabbed his father on live TV. And MJ's just like, I'm sorry the traumatized child insulted your couscous. So then Paul's just like, oh, of course, trauma, the magic word that means he can do whatever he wants. You know, we have some of that ourselves, right? And you know, when Paul says this, it just has me like, the man's got a point. And while they're going back and forth, Dylan's on his phone trying to figure out where Madame Mask could be hiding. So he ends up narrowing it down to an abandoned building owned by Byron's storage company, which belonged to Byron Frost, the father of Whitney Frost, which just ties it back to a made-up alias. And so now with Dylan having a possible location, he's just got to find a way to ditch MJ and Paul. So Dylan yells for the two of them to get out here, only so he can ask Paul, how stupid do you have to be to get fooled by a pair of imaginary kids, which I mean, ouch, that one had to hurt. But when this gets Paul to tell Dylan to go to his room, that's exactly what Dylan was looking for, cause he set all this up so he could sneak out. And so when Paul comes to the door to have a talk with Dylan about hurtful words, he brings some ice cream, which is probably the kind with soy milk, you know, the nasty kind that should be banned from, I don't know, Earth. But this ends up leading to Paul figuring out that Dylan snuck out. And when we head over to the abandoned warehouse, it's here where we find Chance and Dr. Fortissimo, who are both here hoping to catch Madame Mask under the assumption of this possibly being her hideout. And this isn't the only location that they're checking, because both of their teams are spread out at a number of different spots, just hoping to see if she pops up. And I like how during this time, Chance points out that they're not gonna find her here in an abandoned warehouse that her fake father once owned. And he's like, a child could figure out that connection. The odds of Madame Mask being dumb enough to use this location are 0. And shortly after this, they hear a wall get knocked down, and it's all new Venom. So now these guys are just about certain that it's Madame Mask inside of the symbiote. So Chance takes aim and he tells the others, place your bets, just before he goes for the headshot that puts a hole right through Venom's dome. And right now with Dylan, who's watching this from afar off, he's just like, so it's not Luke Cage. So yeah, now this just narrows it down, with it being one less person who could possibly be the all-new Venom. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.